Okay, welcome to our first episode of Wisdom from Woodcock Women with your host, Carly Woodcock, and today I'm joined by
Betty Jo Woodcock.
Miss Betty Jo is my Grammy, and we have a lot in common. We share our love for hosting, for crafts, for cooking and baking. Is there anything else that we share love for?
Our families.
Families. We definitely share a love for Tommy Woodcock, who is her husband and my grandfather and best friend. So we definitely have that in common as well. The podcast is titled Wisdom from Woodcock Women, and my Grammy has two daughters who have since married, and they both their last names have now changed. So I am the last Woodcock woman besides Miss Betty Jo. So it's fitting that we're going to share some wisdom today since we're the last Woodcock women. That's right. A lot to live up to because I'm carrying on the legacy of Betty Jo Woodcock, but we're going to do it the best we can. So I just have a list of some questions that I want to ask my grandma about being a lady, about being a true Southern belle, about what kind of characteristics that women should look for in a good husband, what makes a good friend, a little bit about her childhood, and where she comes from. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Grammy. What is one lesson that your parents taught you that you tried to instill in your own children?
I would say a good work ethic. I grew up in a family that always worked. They had their own business. They went to work sick. They never missed time. They gave it everything, and because of that, they had a successful business.
And what was that business?
My father was a mechanic. He owned a service station, and my mother did all of the book work for him, as well as run errands and go pick up parts for him and things like that. And she worked with him side by side for the time that they had their own business. And then when they retired, she had him by her side for another 20 years, I believe. So when he passed away, it was just very, very devastating for my mom.
So work ethic, so that's something that was really important that you passed on to my mom and Christy.
Well, they loved me more than you could ever imagine. So there was lots of love in our family. They also loved their families, their extended families. We went to my father's home in Emporia, Virginia, almost every Sunday, and we spent time with our family. All of the children came home for a big dinner on Sundays, and I got to play with my cousins, and because of that, we all have a terrific relationship, a long-lasting relationship, a loving relationship. So
I will be honest, as a child, so for those that you don't know, so my grandma is from Richmond. My grandfather is from Chesterfield, we'd say, not really Richmond City. And so they stayed local, and they have a house off of Beach Road, and then they had my mom and my aunt, and then they went to Clover Hill High School, and then they stayed home and commuted down to VCU. They both got their bachelor's from VCU, and then they got married, have kids, and my aunt bought a house 5 minutes from my grandparents, and then my mom bought our house, I'd say another 5 minutes from that. So we're all in this 3 points in a row. And when I was younger, I kind of was like, man, I can never understand why we just stay so close. There's so much more than Chesterfield County, and I can never figure it out. But now I truly am old enough and mature enough that I understand the significance of having the luxury of, oh, I need some salt and pepper. Let me drive 5 minutes down the road to my grandma's house. And just, I see you probably at least once a week, and during the summer quite a bit often more. And I think that's something special, that we do see each other so often. So I definitely understand the value of being close to family and living close to family. The next one is, what is one piece of advice you'd give your 21-year-old self? So first off, what were you doing when you were 21? Were you in nursing school?
I was in nursing school, yes. And I graduated when I was 22. And I got married. I graduated in the 1st of June, got married July, mid-July. So it was a busy summer for me.
How long were you engaged? When did you get engaged? Did you get a ring before spring? You know that's the thing. If you graduate in May, some people get a ring before spring.
You know, this is terrible. I can't remember when I got it.
But
I have it though.
Okay, so you were graduating.
And so I was a nurse, and I worked in a hospital for a number of years. And I mean, I just hit the floor running. Mm-hmm. You know, you graduate, and I had a job there, and I liked where I was going to work, and so we just did. And I had a husband lined up, and so we lived right in the city of Richmond for the first 2 years of our marriage, maybe, and then we bought this house out here in Chesterfield, and we stayed in the same house.
And that's the house that we're in right now. Yes. Is the house that you bought, you know,
yes.
I guess you were what, 24 or 25?
Yes, about that. And let me think. My first daughter was a year old when we moved here. And then we had your mom about a year after that. Mm-hmm. So we were really busy. And I worked the whole time too. Mm-hmm. So
one piece of advice that you would give your 21-year-old self. So in that time period, with everything you were going for, it sounds like you were pretty set. But if you could go back, what would you?
Well, to make sure that you have somebody that you really feel that is a good mate for you, is a good partner for you, is going to have the same work ethics that you have, is, you know, is going to, that person's going to love you, make sure that he takes care of you well, takes care of the children well. You know, you just have to look at the type of person and make sure that they are the right one for you. And if you don't care about having a job or children or whatever, you're going to look for a different person. But I wanted a family.
So then going into that, what are 3 characteristics a woman should look for in the ideal potential husband?
Well, you want someone that loves you. Mm-hmm. You want someone that's honest, truthful, and they need a little bit of a sense of humor too. Mm-hmm. So I think those are things that you would look for.
I agree with sense of humor. I think life is too hard not to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh at your situations sometimes. And at church we call them God winks. Have you ever heard of that? Where it's just like something where, I mean, I've had a few where in the moment of just like pure like chaos and just like despair, and then all of a sudden there's like a funny little thing that you know is like God winking at you, and like little things like that. Like you have to have a sense of humor about life and just like laughing at yourself, and definitely laughing with your partner, I know, is a big one.
Well, and there's some funny things that take place. Then there's some embarrassing things that take place, and you have to be able to find humor in those mishaps.
I think, especially in this generation, like the importance of being a man of your word, which I think BT is the epitome of that. My grandfather's the epitome of that. Just like doing what you say that you're gonna do. If you say you're gonna be there to pick you up at 6, you better be there at 5:55. You know, don't show up at 6:15. Things like that. And just when you say you're going to do something, you do it. You follow through. You're consistent. You're reliable. But yeah, just that the man of your word, and then also integrity is really big for me. Yes. You know, being that having those same morals and same values no matter who you're around. And a big thing is that no matter who you're around, they should all think the same about the way he feels about you. So if you're around his family and and they know, oh, he loves you, but then when you're around his friends, you know, they should be like, oh yeah, he really loves her, you know. So just that he's outspoken about the way he feels about you, he's very intentional. And so there's all little things that I've noticed in y'all's relationship that have inspired me to really want that. Like just the little things. Like I think in this generation or amongst my peers, like I think men think that, you know, women want, you know, all of these like expensive gifts and this jewelry and, you know, these trips. And I mean, yeah, it's nice. I mean, who doesn't want that stuff? But honestly, it's like the little things, like just intentionality. Like when I come over to do something and there's like a little piece of paper towel where BT's like, thinking of you, have a great day. Like that's like a Sharpie and a paper towel, you know, but it's the significance of letting you know, oh, I'm thinking of you today, or, you know, so little things that I have noticed amongst the years that I think is nice.
He does write me sweet notes, and of course, you know, I do work a little part-time, and when I go to work, it's pitch black dark outside because I have to be at my desk and ready to work at 6:30. So he always, not every time, but a lot of times, he does leave me that note with a Sharpie and the paper towel, and real often he will get up and call me at 6:30 and just say, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, you made it to work.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one. That goes into taking care of you and making sure you're cared for. Next question is, what is the lesson that you learned as a little girl visiting your kinfolk in Emporia? You touched on a little bit about just the importance of family values, but I just think it's kind of interesting to me that I consider you a Southern belle, but in reality you grew up in Richmond City. Which I guess was definitely more Southern back then. But your family is in Emporia, which, what would you say that for people who don't know? It's like kind of Virginia, North Carolina border, like very much Southern Virginia, around there.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I wouldn't say border, but close to it.
Close to it,
Yeah.
yes.
So what did you say something about, I guess her cousins lived in Emporia, and it was like, was a joke about how my Grammy had like the newest toys, and they're like, oh, she's a little city girl having the newest toys. So is there anything about just like the country versus city, or anything that you've learned that just from your childhood, like visiting your family in Emporia?
Well, when we went to visit, we were all equal. I was an only child, so sometimes I did get extra things that the others didn't get, that had 3 in their family or 2 in their family. Anyway, so that was a nice thing for me, but I didn't let that consume me. We were all equals. We were all the same, and we played together, and we ate together, and we just had a good time, and we have remained really good friends.
And we have reunions with those people that you're talking about, the family members, like twice a year. Which, you know, some people only have reunions like every 5 years or something. We have it twice a year. So yeah, Emporia is definitely not that far of a drive that we can meet there. Or they come to your house in the summer, and you love hosting, and that's always a big fun thing for you. She's the hostess that does the mostest, for sure. But yeah, just I think being an only child, I'm sure that having that tight-knit relationship with your cousins, and you know, was probably made you feel like a sibling yourself, probably.
Well, it's true, because I always wanted a sibling, but never got one, so it was just me the entire time. So I guess in a way you could say I was a little privileged, maybe, because, as I said, I did get probably some things that some others wouldn't get, but it was only one of me. But my mom and dad worked really hard for everything that they had and everything that they got for me.
And then when you were growing up as a teenager and things, like, did they make you work hard for the things you wanted?
I worked. I got a working permit. You could get one at 15 and 8 months. So I did. And I started working in a cafeteria.
Oh, I didn't know this. Yes. Did they make you wear a hairnet?
When I served food. But after a while, they taught me how to use the cash register, and I liked making my own money, because then I would go to special boutiques, right, and buy. I like clothes.
That's me too. That must be where I got it from. My love for clothes. That's back to the intro. That's I guess another thing we love, shopping.
Yes.
We share that together for
Yes.
sure. So yeah, just I guess having those a business owner father and then just a business family teaching you to work from a very young age, and you worked very long and late into your life as well.
Well, I retired from my last nursing job at age 70. And since then, I've continued to work part-time. I'm 72 now. And in fact, I work 2 days this week.
Despite her grandkids telling her that she should just relax and enjoy being retired, she always finds her way back.
And her husband keeps telling her the same thing, too.
Last thing, we always joke about how my grandma is a little Southern belle. Just because of her true Southern hospitality, her little country roots, and maybe a little bit of twang she might have. So what makes a woman a true Southern belle?
Well, a couple of words come to mind. Please and thank you. Those are things that should be said all the time. It's very important.
Do you want to tell them how hard you were on me about my manners growing up?
Oh, if you didn't say yes, ma'am, I was Carly, what did you say? And if you still didn't say Carly, what did you say?
And I hated it growing up. None of my friends said it. None of them said it. And I just couldn't figure out. Oh, it was so annoying. I'll just be honest with you. But I don't know. What was I said something? Oh, a professor. I forget. I think I told you. A professor said, oh, I really appreciate your manners. Like that, people don't have that nowadays. And she had a military background, so I'm sure she appreciated it from a different perspective. But yeah, I definitely am thankful for it. And as I am develop into a young professional, I've been told not to say it because it makes me, it puts too much of an age gap between me and my colleagues or my coworkers or potential coworkers. But either way, I would so much rather be asked to, oh no, you can just call me by my first name, or you don't have to say yes sir to me. But I just, it's just second nature at this point, and that's definitely thanks to UBT, and my mom was hard on me as well, because I'm sure you were on them as well. But I agree, manners is a big one.
Manners, it's really important. And as you said, I love to entertain. There's nothing fancy here, but it's just having everybody here. And real often we'll have a group of friends over and entertain. And I cook, and I enjoy cooking. And sometimes I cook with bacon grease.
Yes, this is true. That's funny. So manners, being a good host, anything else?
Oh, to say that I'm Southern, and probably every now and then I do have a twang on some of my words.
And I don't think this qualifies for all Southern belles, but I would say you specifically, I don't think you know a stranger, like you've never met a stranger. And that goes to, I guess, the Southern hospitality, but just also being this super personable and, oh my gosh, sometimes we got to yank our way, but.
We'll be out shopping and I'd run into somebody I know and it's just, and they're going, Mom, we've really got to go. But yes, I've never met a stranger. I get along with everybody, and it's whether it's my coworkers, whether it's the people I take care of, usually family members, everybody. I get along with everybody, and sometimes also you can't always sweat the small stuff. Some stuff you've just got to let go of, even if it bothers you. Because it's just not, sometimes it's just not worth it.
You got to let it go and say, oh, bless your heart. Yes. That's right. Okay, and then just for fun, last closing question. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, my goodness. I love macaroni and cheese. And the other favorite's mashed potatoes and fried chicken. I cook really good spaghetti.
You do, yes.
Good chili.
Good cornbread. What's your favorite thing to bake or dessert?
I like making cobblers, and I use my mother's recipe. I probably like that the best. I like making cakes, but I never feel like I can decorate them really pretty like you do. So I usually stay away from those.
For my wedding gift, I've told you that I want a big recipe, Woodcock recipe, Harrison recipe, all your good stuff, so I can be a little Southern Belle wife too.
And for corn, you need corn pudding.
Oh,
I've got to pull that out of my brain because it's just.
Oh, whenever I ask you, I say, "What's this recipe?" She says, "Oh, it's in my brain." I said, "Well, pull it out of your brain. I need to make it." Okay, well, thank you for joining me on the pilot episode of Wisdom from Woodcock Women. It was really nice having you, and even feel like I got to know a little bit more about you. I feel like I know you pretty well, but I didn't know you worked in a cafeteria.
Yes, I did. The gentleman that was the manager of that cafeteria dealt with my dad at the service station, and they had become friends. My dad was a person that never met a stranger either, so he just did very well with his business. But anyway, yeah, so he hired me over there to work, and so that was really nice. The people, it was great. It really was.
See a picture of that.
It was a lot of fun. So anyway, but I want to thank you for choosing me to interview. So, because I just love you to death.
Well, I love you too. And there's only but so many Woodcock women I could choose from. No, I'm just kidding. A great interview subject, and I knew you'd be able to. And she didn't know any of these questions beforehand, so I knew that I could just ask you something and you could talk, and we could go back and forth. So I knew you would be a good person for that. So I love you too, and thanks for joining us. And we'll see you on our next episode. Okay, take care.
You too. Thank you, darling.